I'm running my core Vim class online on January 27th at 1 PM London time, which should be convenient if you live in Europe. Tickets cost £160, but you can get the early bird discount of £145 if you buy yours before January 24th. Vim's diff mode allows us to easily compare the contents of two or more buffers. We can start Vim in diff mode using the vim diff command, or if Vim is already running, we can switch to diff mode using the diff this command. The beauty of the diff this command is that it works with unnamed buffers, whereas vim diff can only work with files. Here I have a draft of the show notes for a previous Vimcasts episode. Since publishing this episode, I've made a couple of changes in the Vimcast CMS, and now I'd like to compare my local draft with the latest revision. You may already know about the vim diff command. We can call this from the command line, giving it two or more file names. Vimdiff launches Vim, creates a window for each specified file, and highlights the differences between them. We have a slight problem here though. One of the text files we want to compare is contained in a text area on a web page. Before we can use Vimdiff, we'll have to put that text into a file. I'll do so by copying the contents of the text area to my clipboard, then saving it to a file. I'm using the pb paste command here, which is specific to OS X. Now we can run vimdiff. That opens each of the specified files in its own split window and highlights the bits that are different. I can jump forward and back between the changes using the square bracket C commands. If I wanted to resolve these differences, I could use the diff put and diff get commands. Check out episodes 32 and 33 for a demonstration of how they work. Well, that's one way of comparing these two drafts, but I'm not too keen on this workflow. I have no further use for this temporary file, so I'll have to clean up afterwards by removing it. Also, I usually have an instance of Vim open already, and I'd prefer a workflow that didn't require me to open a fresh instance of Vim. Let's see if we can come up with a better workflow. I'll launch Vim, as usual, and set up a couple of split windows. Suppose that I'm working on this local copy, and I decide that I want to compare it with the latest revision. I want to keep this workspace as it is, so I'll open a new tab page with the current buffer. Next, I'll open a new empty buffer in a vertical split. I'd like to keep my draft on the left, so I'll swap the position of these two split windows. Then I'll copy the text from the text area on the web page and paste the clipboard contents into my empty buffer. Vim lets us start diff mode with the contents of our existing windows by running the command win-do diff this. Boom! We can see the changes between these two versions. The nice thing about this technique is that we can use an unnamed buffer. There's no need to write the text to a temporary file. In this case, the buffer on the left corresponds to a file on my local file system, while the buffer on the right has no associated file. This technique would work just as well if neither buffer had been saved to disk, which makes it pretty flexible. We can turn diff mode off again just as easily by running win-do diff off. Because we set up a fresh tab page for each of these two windows, we can easily switch back to the other tab page containing our previous workspace, which is just as we left it. The information in this video is summarised in the accompanying show notes. If you have any questions, requests, or recommendations, then you can contact me at drew@vimcasts.org.